I'll call the meeting to order. All members are present except for Mr. Bianco. If anyone's recording, would they make it known? Thank you. Revised, huh?
Yeah.
I think you all have before you the meeting minutes for September 25th. They're quite lengthy.
I want to point out something that the agenda actually says September 25th, but the date is on the minutes is actually September 23rd.
Yeah, I just see that.
Given that these are so long, would it make more sense for us to vote to, review them between now and the next meeting? This is a 20-minute review from my perspective.
Yeah.
Would you like to do that, or would you like to try to tackle them later in the meeting?
I won't be here for the next meeting, but I've read them, so I'm okay. You can.
All right, we'll table them for
He
the
did his
moment.
homework.
Let's see. We'll table those for the moment and move on to the public hearing. Town meeting article to amend the Town of Wareham zoning bylaws. See if the town will vote to amend the bylaws. Article 2, zoning districts, section 212, overlay districts, by adding the following language: Tremont Nail Factory Redevelopment Overlay District. Excuse me. The Tremont Nail Factory Overlay District is intended to encourage a cultural mixed-use center within historic buildings and a distinctive and attractive site development program.
Notice of the public hearing was published on September 19th and September 26th.
Yeah, I don't have the, is that the notice?
This is the notice.
I will go through that, so notice is hereby given pursuant to Section 5 of the State Zoning Act, Mass General Law 40A, that the Wareham Planning Board will conduct a public hearing in room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass, on Monday, October 7th, at 7 p.m. to discuss the following proposed amendment to the Wareham zoning bylaws. Now, okay, I've read the article. Is this the article or the explanation?
That's the article. The explanation is that Article 2 in the zoning bylaw lists the different, most of the different zoning districts. In fall town meeting of 2018, the Tremont Nail Factory Redevelopment Overlay District was passed, but Article 2 wasn't amended to include it in the list of overlay districts. This essentially just lists out the overlay district along with the other zoning districts under Article 2.
So if I understand this right, I'm reading 212 here. 212 is specifically listing existing overlay districts or approved overlay districts.
That's correct.
The floodplain overlay district, the Buttermilk Bay overlay district, the groundwater protection overlay district, and the business development overlay district.
Correct.
And the Tremont Nail district is a real one, but we just never updated the bylaws to list it in this section.
Correct.
So we're not approving anything, we're just making our documents accurate?
That's correct.
Is there any intent to couple this with inserting it in the use chart?
Overlay districts aren't usually put into the use table. We can talk about that as a general purpose to list all the overlay districts in the use table.
Well, when we did the business overlay district, there were, along with the underlying zoning, there was additional uses listed, I believe.
George, can you update or educate me on the use chart, what you're referring to? I'm not, you mean that this?
Under Article 3, under use regulations, there's a table of
Oh, yeah.
uses and zoning districts that specify what are allowed uses, what are prohibited uses, and what are uses by special permit or under special conditions. None of the overlay districts are included in the use table.
Is there language in the,
Overlay district about uses, yes.
in the original, the 2018,
Overlay district, yes.
which should be inserted into the zoning bylaw, correct? They haven't been yet.
Oh, they are in the zoning bylaw. They're under that overlay district description.
I'm sorry, George, what was your question? I'm confused.
A description of what can be done in this district other than the underlying zoning should be illustrated somewhere.
It is within the overlay district itself.
And where's that written down? I see where you're going, George.
Will it have any relationship to the vision plan? Is there any,
No.
it won't be consistent, but there was an effort made to develop the Tremont Nail Factory vision plan. Is that out the window?
I don't think so, Emmanuel.
Shouldn't it be somehow referenced? Because it had a list of suggestions in an effort to achieve these nice words. Says to encourage a cultural mixed-use center within historic buildings in a distinctive and attractive site development program. There was some study made that led in that direction, wasn't it? The vision plan?
Yes, it was done by Union Studios under a grant from Mass Development.
Yeah, but would it make sense to incorporate that at all in this? I'm just asking.
The vision plan references Tremont, but not at a detail level. That's one of the things that we're struggling with. Let's finish up on George's and we'll come back.
Under Section 460, the Tremont Nail Factory Redevelopment Overlay District is listed in the zoning bylaw. Under Section 463, there is a listing of allowed uses.
So if it's already in the zoning bylaw, what is this doing?
What that is doing is listing the district itself along with the other districts under Article 2. There is some redundancy in the zoning bylaw. And this is one where I'm assuming the original intent was a quick summary of the districts so that there was some information on the classification of the various zoning districts. And in the districts that are listed are the overlay districts, and this would be added to the other overlay districts as a last listing.
So this is basically to identify it as an overlay district. It doesn't change the approved uses.
No, it doesn't.
I look at this as a little administrative
That's what it looks like to me, too.
cleanup and trying to keep consistent.
You don't see anything from that, right?
This is one that can get very
Yeah, I
confusing.
can't see
if
what
not
that's
presented
meant.
very crisply, at town meeting. Oh, God, we got a chance to knock it down.
Well, with all the holes that were in the existing one, I think we're focusing on the wrong thing, but I see what you're trying to do.
I mean, do you see a concern in that?
Well, it seems, I don't know that it's actually necessary. If you pass the zoning bylaw, why you have to take a separate action to insert it in a different place?
I'm not sure.
Who was the sponsor?
It was the, it was the chairman of the redevelopment authority.
Titlebaum. So, I mean, George, I see this as administrative catch-up. Do you?
Well, I don't see, at face value, I don't see why it's necessary. You passed the district already, it just needs to be inserted under the list of overlay districts.
So
That's the intent.
In our bylaws, we have a section 212 that lists all the overlay districts, and it's short one.
So this is, basically, it's just adding it to the list of overlay districts. It isn't changing its use,
Yeah, the use is all called out in Article 4.
section 4.
Yeah. So when Section 4 got updated, we should have updated 2 as well.
Yeah. I would have been happy if it came from another source.
You'll excuse me if I look at it a little sideways.
Well, it
Next
is a bit
question, George.
redundant. I mean, it's-
Sally?
Could I ask a question? Does the language in 212.5 reflect what's in the existing bylaw in terms of encouraging a mixed-use center within historic buildings and a distinctive and attractive development program? Because as I remember that bylaw that was passed, there are no landscaping requirements and no parking requirements. Is that still the
And
fact?
no use restrictions, really, to speak
Right.
of.
So I'm just wondering if it makes sense to do something like this when you've got such a loosey-goosey requirement which doesn't require anything. I don't have 460 in my section of the bylaw. I must have an old section.
Oh, you got the old one.
Well, it says 2018 on it, but it evidently isn't up to date.
You look under section 461, the intent and purpose, and it lists several objectives, 6 objectives on promoting, encouraging redevelopment in accordance with the town master plan and the Tremont Nail Factory Vision Plan.
Basically the same.
So,
Okay.
Emmanuel, this does refer back to the vision plan within the zoning bylaw.
In section 4, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's why I think it's redundant to this, what we're discussing, I think, is redundant. Why do we need to duplicate language and in different sections?
Are you reading Section 2?
Yeah, yes?
You see how it lists all the overlay districts in there?
I'm sorry, say again?
Section 212 lists all the overlay districts, and it's missing one?
So you,
I think that's what we're questioning is, you already created the district, isn't it just a matter of describing another district? We didn't, I'm wondering why it needs an act of town meeting to insert something.
Because you're
fully-
changing the zoning bylaw document.
You know, it's already changed, you're just adding another paragraph to it. It already changed with the creation of the overlay district.
So you're suggesting we leave it out?
If this is what we have to do to execute the overlay district, fine.
I don't think,
You don't need this to execute the zoning overlay district. What this does is just edits the document to be,
Maybe to be precise, when that was created, there should have been "and" inserted into this section of the bylaw as well.
this looks like a catch-up action to me.
It just seems redundant, that's all.
redundancy.
Well, I'll just say that when I read the bylaws, I find them very confusing. And they're hard for me to read, and I bounce all over the place. And if Section 2 says we have 4 overlay districts, and Section 4 says we have 5, that's just another example of the inconsistency and confusion in this document, and I think we should do everything in our power to make it clear, concise, and accurate.
I don't see, personally, I don't see a problem inserting it. I think he's right. I think it's just a matter of just making it accurate. consider.
Had the original document not been so rushed, it may have been.
Right.
Oh, you gotta get you, come over and slap you.
Should have had language like, and adjust the zoning bylaw to reflect the same, or something like that. But this is a public hearing, if anyone's like to comment.
Never gonna end, is it?
Don't just come for the entertainment.
If there's nothing further, I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion made by Emmanuel and seconded by Mike King. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And can we get a recommendation for town meeting?
Recommend for town meeting to, what's the word you want to use? Promote
Favorable action?
favorable action, to insert the Tremont Nail Factory Overlay District as 212.5.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mike King, seconded by Mike Baptiste. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. That was relatively painless, wasn't it, Richard? Other business, a street tree waiver and covenant release for Jordan Road, Jonathan Estates, Skipper's Way. This isn't just a placeholder.
Not this time.
This one. What do we got?
This is a request for a release, for a waiver. A previous discussion had, on the release, had been that a report from our consulting engineer, Charlie Rowley, had noted that there were not sufficient number of street trees that cover the subdivision roadway.
Enough?
Cashier.
And so the request is for a waiver of the street tree requirement under section 6.
There we go.
You have the floor.
Good evening. For the record, John Churchill, JC Engineering, representing Pine Grove. As Mr. Buckland just indicated, we're looking basically for a minor modification of an approved subdivision plan. This project is all built out, all the homes are all built out, roads are all built out. So we came to request the covenant release and the street trees. Some trees were, as you can see by this plan, some trees not really the maple trees that were specified on the approved drawings. So we're kind of going backwards and requesting I guess, a modification to a waiver for those street trees. What we did is, you can see the pictures, in case you didn't have a chance to go take a look at these two roads. They're located off of Charge Pond Road, and basically way up Charge Pond, almost up by Sarah Beth Lane. And so if you look at the roadways, it's Jonathan and Jordan Road. And you'll see it says P7, P8. If you see those, like I'm looking at Jonathan Lane, for instance, so you see P7, P8, what looks to be like a V, if you will. So what that is that's standing at that location, taking a picture, towards the opening of that V. So just to walk you down Jonathan Lane, see P7 out by Charge Pond Road, and then the picture up top gives you an idea of what you see. So it's on the top right. That's what you see standing at that spot, looking down Jonathan Lane. And then moving forward, you see P8 is the one to the left of picture number 7. Then picture 9 is about sort of a little bit more than halfway down. You'll see P9 in that location as well. So basically, if you look at the plan as well, what we did is during the as-built, we picked up these trees that currently exist. So if you're looking on the north side of Jonathan Lane, you see all those shrubs and trees. You can see those in the picture as well, above in picture number 7. And then same on the south side. Those are indicative of trees that are currently existing. And then the dashed squiggly green line, that's basically existing woods. So you can see as you're coming down that road, coming down the north side, you see that there's a bunch of trees there in the first part, and then the 2 cherry trees, then you have a Japanese maple, then you have a dogwood, Japanese maple, and then a row of trees and shrubs around the cul-de-sac, and then even within the cul-de-sac. That the developer planted some of these homeowners. This was about a 4-year project, so by the time we got to this point, some of these homeowners are planting trees out there of their liking, and they happen to end up in the right of way of the road. So, then coming around, as you can see, coming around the cul-de-sac, you see more plantings just along the edge and existing tree lines around the whole subdivision. So to plant the red maples, it's almost, they're almost not necessary, I guess, if you will. If you drive this road, you'll see that there's already plenty of plantings that are there that are going to take growth and be there. And then coming down to Jordan, similar. See picture 1 and picture 2 are right standing at basically Charge Pond Road. You'll see picture 2 is a nice landscaped island that was done by the developer. You see the couple rock formations, some shrubs and some trees around that. That wasn't shown on any plans, but something he did. Coming down, again, you see the pine trees. That's all open space. That's all woods, basically. That first, I don't know, what was it, probably about first, I don't know, 200 and something feet is all open space. So that's all woods, basically, off of, on the right side of Jordan. And then coming down, you have a nice stone wall we were able to preserve and do a driveway for that property owner. Again, you can see that looking at just past the picture 4, kind of just past that opening. Shows basically the electric boxes in that home. And again, you got more woods on the right there on the north side coming down. So we tried to give you a good indication of what currently is there, if you didn't have a chance to go look at it. So if the board does want us to plant red maples, I guess I would ask what quantity would the board be looking at if they don't feel comfortable granting the waiver to allow us to get our basically the finalization, if you will, of this covenant. Release of the covenant is what we're really looking for. So when you come around, as you see, you come around there, there's a couple different areas, landscaping, islands around the cul-de-sac. See an apple tree.
Sure.
Not as many ornamental trees as Jonathan, but you can see by the pictures, there's some decent slopes there. Picture number 3 shows you the side, the side of that slope.
No, he said toward the open.
So the
toward
green is what exists now? Or?
Yeah, this is all existing. What you see here is in all the pictures or we put like Japanese maple, for instance, or like the apple tree, for instance. Those are symbols for trees that are currently there. The dogwood, Japanese maple, the row of shrubs, and the dashed squiggly line is the actual limit of. That's basically woods, is what you see there. So, you have the driveway. You have the driveway curb cuts coming off the road, but you have, a lot of woods there. That was able to be maintained, or at least existing trees, should I say, not woods, if you will. But I know in the past, we've, been able to, if you keep existing, and it actually states in your bylaw, in the subdivision regulations, that if you're able to preserve existing vegetation, then you don't need to plant the trees. So that's kind of why we're here, just to see is it really necessary to do this. That's kind of... We've noticed sometimes when you plant those maple trees, especially on the walkway side, it just really, after 10 years, you really didn't do yourself any favors, because now the walkway starts to buckle and the roots of the tree kind of get in the way in that instance too. So you can see that on existing subdivisions that have been done. And then some homeowners don't like them, so they actually cut them down anyways. I've seen that before, too. So,
Well, wouldn't the trees be planted in a HOA right away? I'm assuming there's an HOA here.
in the homeowners association?
Yeah.
You mean in the right-of-way? Is
Yeah,
that what you're saying? Yeah, they would be, yeah.
yeah. So the
Yeah.
homeowners can't take them down anyway.
They planted the trees. If you look at Jonathan, the 2 cherry trees that are there, the Japanese maple, that's all within the right-of-way.
Yeah.
That 10-foot strip from the road to the edge of the right-of-way, those were all planted by homeowners. They think they own up to the road, as you know. So, yeah, you can put stuff in the homeowners association, but trying to enforce that,
I'm sorry, I was having a little difficulty following you. Was there a landscaping plan submitted when the approval was granted?
yes, yep. Red maples were proposed about every 200 feet.
Are they shown here?
They are not shown here.
I'm having difficulty evaluating what was committed to
Mhm.
as opposed to what the waiver is that being requested.
Is it strictly the red maples that weren't done?
Correct. It was red maples every 200 feet, is what was proposed.
And the reasoning behind it was just cost,
For
not doing?
not doing them now? No, basically the subdivision is complete, and as you see, you get these, cherry trees, Japanese, they're in the spots that we would put the red maples. So we would basically be infilling what's currently there, is what you would be doing.
Honestly, picture 4 has kind of a wide expanse of nothing.
Correct, yes, yep, definitely, and that's over on Jordan. So that's looking at the electrical box, electrical panel there. So that's about a, 60-foot area. So that's what I was basically saying, maybe 1 or 2 there, things of that nature. I don't know if we want to get into selective, where do you put these trees? If I can walk it with staff and find out where you suggest to put these,
I mean, wouldn't it have been more prudent to put them where you had intended at the time you were building to avoid the homeowners doing their own thing?
We just finished. The subdivision was just finished.
Right.
That's why we're requesting the release of the covenant.
But, I mean, that's what I'm saying, is as you were doing the project, wouldn't placing the trees as you were going along, that would have kept the homeowners at bay from doing their own thing, and it would have created, I live on a road that's lined with red maples. And the subdivision is 10 years old. And now that the trees are 10 years old, the street is gorgeous. I mean, it's not a bad thing.
I agree. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just trying to see whereabouts should we put these red maples? And then,
Where you had originally intended, I would think. I mean, that's why the plan was approved, right? Was with those red maples in place?
And they're staggered, so they're 200 feet, but they're,
That's fine.
From either side of the street, right? Yeah.
So did he say that he's, instead of red maples, he planted something else?
had you made any recommendations of what
Check it, is
you intend or you'd like to see?
I was waiting to either get the opinion of the board or to walk it with somebody from the board so we can see, because when you go out there, you can kind of get a better vision of what's really there. We can sit here and look at a plan, but you really don't. That's why we gave the photos too. Because when you walk it,
See, have you been there, Charlie?
I-
Have you been to the site?
Sure, I wrote a letter to the planning board, and that's how this all came up, saying that there was a request for a final inspection. I'm not sure what the issue is with a covenant release, though. There are houses built on those lots. Why are we asking for a covenant release?
I was wondering that myself. How come we're at that point?
why we I believe, because
The
the
covenant still exists and
covenant still exists and the road's complete now. So we're asking
But
for
you've
final
got
release.
building permits. You're not supposed to get building permits before a covenant is released. So how did all that happen? You either post security,
Yeah,
right? And get a covenant release, which means that the road will be constructed with the backup of the security that gets posted with the town. If there was no covenant release, how did the building inspector issue any permits?
that's, I didn't pull the permits on them, so.
I would say that the first thing you got to do is advertise for a public hearing if you want to make a change. If you don't want to make a change, then you put the trees in the way the plan showed it. The plan was very specific about what it showed. So, you know, it's an option. You can make changes in the plan if you want. Allow the plants that are out there and suggest that others be put in places where there is nothing. You know, that's your choice. But the change gets made through the public hearing process and essentially a modification to the original approval. So you can do that if you wish. But it's interesting why all those houses are there and there's been no covenant release for any lot on those streets.
I was a little surprised to hear you say covenant.
Yeah, but that's what we're looking for, is basically release the covenant, because basically there's a,
It was not, nobody picked it up with a title search or anything?
not that I'm, no,
The covenant was dated December 9th, 2014.
correct. And that's why we're asking for a minor modification, because I don't think you need to re-advertise and go for a public
Yeah,
hearing.
you do.
under a
That's the
minor.
only way you modify a subdivision plan, John.
Yeah, even a minor?
There's no such thing as a minor modification of a subdivision plan. That works with a special permit, but not a subdivision under Chapter 41.
Okay.
There's a procedure, I think it's 81W, that suggests to you how that gets done. So if you want to make a change, you hold a public hearing, vote for the change if that's what you wish to do, and a new approval gets submitted to the town clerk with a copy to the registry of deeds.
Yeah, I don't think the applicant, I mean, we'll just plant the trees. I mean, that's, you know, that's, I've already recommended that he plants the trees, so.
Can I go back to, this is a question that needs more discussion, obviously, but I want to go back to a manuals to understand. You said, he was saying, he was struggling with comparing what was intended and what is now and what's the delta, so that the waiver's being asked again. And you said a Japanese maple every 200 feet?
A red maple.
A red maple every
Yep.
200 feet. So if I look at Jonathan Way, it's 400 feet long. Could I expect 2 on each side per the original spec, if you will?
Correct.
All right, and then if I look at Jordan Road, it's almost 600 feet, say 3 on each side. That would be the original spec?
Correct. It's a little more than that, but yeah, I think it's 800 feet and probably 900 feet, and the count was probably closer to, I think 13 or 12 per road,
All right.
somewhere around
So
there.
when I drive down there and look at it closer, I've been down there with you, Charlie, actually, and we don't know, and seen the spot. Then I can compare 2 on each side on Jordan and maybe 3 or 4 on each side on Jonathan, and look at the existing pine that's already there fairly close to the road and say, are we close enough? Is that what you're asking?
I was asking, but I mean, if what Charlie's saying is that we have to go back to a public hearing, the client's not going to, the growing season is, we're losing it very quickly, so he'll just go out and plant these red maples. So, but I guess it'd be a moot point to even go through the whole public hearing process, come back in November, and then you're planting these trees in the spring.
I hear you.
So he's looking to get this thing closed out, and so he's just going to comply with the plan.
I'll default to you guys on the covenant.
Yep.
No, if there's any question, look at the subdivision control law and see what it says about how you make changes. I'm not trying to make it difficult
I
for
agree.
John, I'm just trying to make sure that we follow the procedure, that's all.
Is there availability for these trees, or
I believe so.
given it's October?
Yeah, I believe so. You know, I mean, maybe, you know, I think the plan might have called out, 10-foot or 12-foot high, so, I mean, if we end up planting 8-foot-high trees, I mean, is that, I mean, you know, I don't know. I guess that's when I report back to him. You know, that's what I was trying to get from the,
Describing the street trees.
Rules and
It's shown on the subdivision plan that was approved.
correct.
The rules and regulations that spell out street trees.
Was there any other landscaping in the original plan?
No, that was the only street tree compliance with the street tree regulations.
I see stuff in the cul-de-sac on Jonathan, but
I would do. That's what I would do.
not,
Yeah, the developer just did that stuff to spruce up the,
Just standard loam and seed, George, that's the only other landscaping requirement that was there, loam and seed the shoulders and so forth.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't do the street trees, but he did some additional landscaping. You know, he did a couple little, landscaping beds in the front of the subdivision, things of that nature. But I guess it's a moot point, like I said. If we have to go through a public hearing process, then, I think he just wants to get these trees in. That's what we'll do. Right?
I know I've been through that neighborhood a couple times, and there's places where I don't think the trees would thrive, but you probably should have taken advantage of that with the plan. Because tall pine trees on land not controlled by the developer.
Oh, is there a landscape designer involved?
No, not for
When the
this.
plan was prepared?
No.
So you don't want to go through the, I mean,
No, he was just plant, I don't know how,
I would probably buy 2 or 3 trees just going through that process.
what's that? Oh, yeah, no. I'm sure he doesn't, I guess my only question would be then is, I guess, on the height, is there a specific?
I don't have the plan in front of me, so I can't tell you, but I think they were specified on the plan.
Okay.
I think so.
I believe so, yes. Okay. All right. Sounds great. Thank you, sorry to bother you. I know Ken and I talked about this, and I thought I read minor modifications were, but I don't have the regulations in front of me, so I do apologize.
Thanks, John.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Phase 2 and 3 endorsement of covenant and subdivision plan for Bay Point.
Based on what Charlie said.
Are we looking at another example of building permits having been issued in the,
It would appear as though they were
Yeah, issued it.
issued prior to.
In error.
There's no lot releases. The covenant still stands, there's no lot releases.
Those houses have been there well before the completion of the road, in many instances.
Not only,
In there.
not only building permits, but transfer of ownership.
Yeah, presumably. That's what I understand. If there were any mortgages involved, how they didn't pick that up. There should have been a lot release, and that lot release gets recorded.
It's possible there could have been a partial release. I did not check in the file for partial releases.
Yeah, I don't remember myself whether there was releases granted, but they would have been replaced by another form of surety
Yeah,
at this point.
exactly. To release the lots without the roads having been completed, and rules and regulations say that you can mix them up. You can have a partial covenant, and then you can secure the construction by posting other security.
Any lot releases?
So,
That would be in the bylaw, wouldn't
It would be.
it? To answer your question, yes, it sounds like it.
when were these, do we know when these building permits were issued?
yeah, you should be able to tell.
Years ago, right?
You should be able to tell because by now, I assume the assessors records are up
5
there.
years ago.
I don't know if they go back that far.
Well, the covenant was signed in December of 2014, so it must have been in the last 5 years.
Yeah, but nothing happened up there for a little while. The oldest house up there is probably 3.5 years old, Sally, if that.
Yeah, that's about right.
Well, they put the drainage in over the last, I think it was 2017, 2018. They started out on one, and then they continued on and finished it up the next year. And then they went in through with the base material, which I inspected. Went through and walked both the roads to find out that the street bounds were put in, which they were. And then the last request was the final inspection, which included the trees, and when you compare the plan to what's on the ground, you see there's a discrepancy, and that's why I wrote the letter. So I didn't make a recommendation for release, I just said that the work hasn't been done according to the approved plan.
Bay Point,
This is the Phase 2 and 3 subdivision plans. The covenant has been reviewed, and it's our standard form. The dates of the plans have been inserted into the document, and the book and page numbers for the existing plans has been identified. This covenant has been signed and notarized by Tim Fay for Stone Street, the Bay Point Club LLC.
no paper ones?
No, they didn't give us paper ones. Before release, I'll have to get printed copies.
These are strictly the subdivision plans, there's no elevations, no utilities.
Yeah, that should all be included for your signature. I would recommend that you have at least 3 sets of prints, including the Mylars that will go to the registry, so that you've got a record of what you approved, and when they ask somebody to go out there to inspect the construction, that whoever that person is, has got a copy of a signed plan.
Did these come in with an A&R and not have Mylars, or why is, did we already approve an A&R for these, or?
No, you approved
No,
a
this is
subdivision.
definitive.
Yeah, this is a definitive subdivision. So I can get copies made.
No, the road profiles and everything were on a previously submitted plan, right?
Correct.
No, they were a part of that whole package of plans that you went through with the site plan review and also with the subdivision.
And the special permit.
Does the road profile and all that get normally
Doesn't-
entered on the,
It doesn't get recorded, but it's for your record. They typically don't record the road profile plans, it's just the lot plans. But you need to sign those so that anybody in the future knows that those were the plans that you approved and were part of the package. Because without that, you're going to end up with the same issue you had before, not knowing whether that was an approved plan or not because of the revisions they make from time to time.
There are already plans in there that have been signed by the planning board in the file.
that's what's, they usually all come in
The-
together, that's why I
This
think
shouldn't,
we-
how could you sign those and not this one? When were they signed, Ken?
The paper copies with the road profile in them
For Phase 2?
for Phase 2 and 3, yes.
When did,
When they approved the permit, when they approved the definitive subdivision, the special permit, and the site plan review, they signed the plans that were approved under that permit.
okay. All right, I wasn't aware of that. So long as they have been signed and they're reflected in the special permit and the subdivision approval, then that's the only thing that's left?
Right.
Okay.
That's what's throwing me off. They usually all come in together.
I know.
You know, just come in randomly like this. It's,
I was watching you roll them up. He's just
You could
going
have
on
said-
and roll 'em.
You could have said stop.
Like he was having too much fun.
So,
so you can hit me with it now.
I'm still concentrating on these.
Do we need to review all this in the office and then sign off on it? Are you comfortable with it, or?
comfortable with it, already reviewed it in the office, and if you want to, I'll get the paper copies made and have you come in and sign.
What do you mean made? Are they PDF now?
No, run off these, the Mylars.
We already have instruction sheets already signed off, right?
Correct.
Have you got copies of those, Ken? Those three
That's what I'm
sheets?
saying, copies of these.
Okay.
He said he's gonna make copies of the Mylars, include them with all the document we already have, and then have George review and sign. Is that what I heard?
That's correct.
So there would be that complete package? I think that's what I heard you say, right?
Yeah, just make sure that whatever date goes on there is the same date that's on the other approved plans, that's all.
It is.
So I'd look for a motion to authorize me to sign it if all the information's correct. Sign it after review.
Doesn't the majority of the board have to sign the definitive?
Do we have anybody else listed as a signatory, or is that just for A&Rs? We'll do a majority just to be safe. I think that's what we've done.
The signature page includes all the board members.
I think that's what we've done with all the plans for Bay Point. All right, we'll put it on an email when they're ready to sign.
What?
I said we'll send out an email when all the paperwork is in one place and up to snuff and can sign it.
We go to your office, and do we sign?
Yeah.
We come
At
to your
least a
office
majority, anyway.
before Friday, right? I mean, tomorrow or Thursday, or Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm not here next
Either that
week.
or he'll go after you.
No, because I'm not here next week.
We only need a majority though.
Oh, good. Good, I can't get sued then.
Do we need a motion for that?
If you would.
How do we construct that one? Look for a motion to endorse the plans once we have all the proper copies and all the paperwork is in place.
So moved.
Second?
A motion made by Emmanuel and seconded by Mike King. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Confirmation of minor modification for Factory 5.
The,
I thought we had done, we'd have voted it to consider it as a minor modification. Did they have to supply new prints to 5?
I believe it was waiting on Charlie's review of the stormwater report.
Which I sent out to all of you on October 2nd.
But didn't we make it conditional upon his report? We have to take an action, right? We already,
So, based on his report, you don't have to take further action. I just wanted a confirmation.
I don't think you should, because I haven't had a reply from GIF since I sent that out.
Charlie had 2 or 3 significant recommendations that he felt needed to be implemented, and you haven't heard anything back.
Not a word.
And they weren't that major.
No, they were adjusting the shape of the stone in one instance and adjusting the elevation in another. That was all it was. But I haven't seen any response as to whether or not they agreed with that or changed the plan or whatever. But if they agree with it, then you should have updated plans for your file.
We'll await the,
Response.
oh, I messed up my papers now. Covenant for road construction for Spring Avenue. Sheridan is the
Is the new owner.
new owner.
You may recall previously the Heb Builders had presented plans with multi-story duplexes, 8 of them on Spring Ave. And with that special permit came improvements to Spring Ave itself for drainage, utilities, and paving. The new owner, Sheridan Home Builders, had proposed something that I hadn't seen before, which was a covenant on the road construction for the holding the special permit for the construction on the of the duplexes on the property.
I don't
I don't
recall
understand.
that being an approved form of surety. I don't.
Can you state that a little differently, so maybe I'll understand it the second
As
time?
I say, I don't understand what you said either.
Is that one lot? Is that what we're looking at?
It's one lot. The access is Spring Ave, it's unconstructed. Under the special permit that was issued, the conditions were the improvement to Spring Ave. And he'd like to proceed before he issues a performance bond for the construction of the duplexes on the lot to construct the roadway. So the road comes first,
So he wants to make the improvements to Spring Ave first,
correct,
and then build the houses,
correct.
okay? That seems kind of odd. Why would he do it backwards?
There's nothing, there's
Nothing
nothing
back-
wrong with that.
Doesn't need,
It sounds great,
If
but
he completes the road, he has no need of surety other than.
it's a town way, so he has to deal with Dave Menard. Just get a road opening permit from Dave Menard, do the work, and get an inspection on it.
Has a internal roadway.
Yeah, but that's all, it's part of your
driveway.
special permit.
That's all a driveway? That's not
It's not a laid out,
built to subdivision standard.
no, well, it might have been to subdivision standards, but it's not a road layout. It's just a driveway. So he doesn't need a release on that. There's no covenant involved in something like that. But if he wants to build the road first, he's free to do it, provided he gets a curb cut permit from Dave Menard's office. It's a town way.
So he doesn't even need a covenant.
No. What would a covenant do but hold up the construction until the road is finished? For a lot release, and I don't even know that you need a lot release. It's on a way that's been there. You never had a plan for that, other than a site plan.
It would be nice if we could look at a plan. Oh, you have one?
Is this what they suggested, or is this?
That's what they suggested based on the covenant form that the town has.
They requested this, will not release any certificate of occupancy till the construction of the ways and installation of municipal services to said project have been completed.
Ken, is there anything in the special permit that deals with that? About the occupancy permit or anything?
No. The only thing is the performance standards of the zoning bylaw. It say with a special permit, you can put a performance bond, request a performance bond on the work that's to be done.
Right.
The project ready to use that we're gonna do.
Does it say performance bond or a form of surety?
Let's go to the
Another that.
bylaw and look it up.
Up all the way to Summer
Can I
Street,
read the letter?
which the original layout was,
Covenant.
but this was all clear. What are we being asked to approve?
This says covenant for road construction.
What are we being asked to do?
I don't know what
He's just going to
holding a special permit does for us.
This is for,
In
So
accordance with the approvals.
he wants to do this in order to
Under normal circumstances, the work has to be completed before he can get a certificate of occupancy.
do lot releases or whatnot. Once
Shouldn't
this
it
is
be
in place,
before he
he's
gets a
free to
building
just
permit?
build away. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting.
Not necessarily. If you didn't put it into your special permit that he couldn't obtain a building permit without site work being done, I don't know that that would make any sense. But he didn't receive anything but a special permit, right?
That's right.
So it allowed him to do the whole project under the terms of the special permit, however that was written. But typically, the building inspector is asked from time to time, is the work completed? So you go out and look and see if everything is completed. Sometimes he gives a temporary occupancy permit if there's only a little bit of landscaping that has to be completed within 30 days or something like that. But you usually don't have a covenant document the way that you would with a subdivision plan.
Well, you have the potential for having however many structures out there without Spring Street being completed.
That's true. So he theoretically should not get an occupancy permit before all of that work as well. It's all a part of the special permit. So all the infrastructure has to be in place before you could grant that, or say that he should get it.
It's just always been that occupancy permit is a function of the building code, not the zoning bylaw.
It is, but if you write it into your special permits that no occupancy permit will be issued or will be allowed under this special permit until such time as all improvements are done, that makes it a term of the special permit that everybody, including the building inspector, I believe, has to acknowledge.
No, I think we'd have to review that and make sure that language is in there.
Yeah? As I remember the plan, Spring Street was a town way up to a certain point.
It's a paved way up to a certain point.
Wasn't it a town way partly?
That may be, yeah, I'm confusing town way with part of an approved subdivision plan.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was pointed out as, I think,
Thought
town
it
way
was-
to the end of pavement.
Yeah, I thought it was pointed out on the plan somewhere.
Yeah, municipal maintenance made comments on the design because it's public way and up to the improvements that are being proposed. It says a performance bond. Does not say surety in the zoning bylaws.
Say again?
It says performance bond, meaning some money surety is installed. Doesn't say surety as in, potentially a covenant or an agreement.
But that's the three forms that you have to accept, is
For a
cash,
subdivision.
bond, and, or
This
Covenant.
document says no performance bond.
it's offering a covenant in place of that.
Right.
But the currency behind the covenant is not the lot, it's the special permit itself. That's what's unusual.
Since this is a public way, how about if I contact municipal maintenance, find out what they want in terms of surety or a road opening permit for the construction proposed within this project?
Well, the value of the construction is what would be called out monetarily, but
And that, I think, George, is appropriate for that section. I don't remember the specific section under the town bylaws that say that the Board of Selectmen has jurisdiction over that portion of construction in public way. You know, where they've sort of said that they need to approve the release of security that's been posted through the planning board process. This is a case where I think they're correct. And that it's a town way and that work is going to be done within the town way. My recommendation, have the guy that, whoever wrote that letter, submit a construction proposal with the cost of the construction within Spring Street. Present that to the board, and at the same time with the selectmen, and let them approve that amount. And that way, at least the construction in Spring is guaranteed.
I mean, they can approve the value. But I think the only
And I think they also,
piece they control is what, cash bond?
Insurance.
Or is it an insurance?
yeah, they wouldn't release or sign off on the insurance bond that was in place for American Assisted Living, as I recall. But that was strictly a private situation. But this one, I think, does apply to them. I think Ken's suggestion about getting in touch with Dave Bernard is probably a good one. Let them decide how they want to handle it.
Well, I would say council too, to find out,
Yeah, there's a lot of questions we need answered
is
here.
the special permit itself suitable to be used as surety?
Offhand, I would say yes, because if a building permit is issued before the special permit terms are completed, which means all the construction shown on the plans that were a part of the permit, then they're in violation of the special permit. And being the zoning enforcement officer, you would be the one to hold up the construction until they come to terms with that.
Tell me if you've read this before.
That's my understanding of the procedure. It maybe needs to be tightened up a little bit, but I think it comes under his jurisdiction to enforce the special permit.
But what are the controlling documents here that spell out the scope of the work would be required?
The site plan, in addition to whatever conditions are in the special permit that was granted.
There should also be a schedule of values for this construction somewhere.
Not at this point, because they've not asked them for anything up to this point.
But I mean, to put a value on the surety, you have to do that.
Right, and that's why I'm saying he should come up with a cost, a construction cost number for what it's going to cost him to put that work in the ground, including the paving, the drainage, whatever was going to go in the street.
Mm-hmm.
And if for any reason he thinks that he needs to include the cost of the other site construction, he can do it.
That's one of the things, he doesn't want to carry that much of a bond.
Personally, I don't think he has to if it wasn't called for on the special permit. He needs a curb cut permit from Dave Bernard, is what he needs. But if Dave, in his position, puts certain conditions on the construction or posting security, it may be up to his department to determine that and ask them to give him a cost figure for what the construction would be.
Well, if his intent is to build the roadway before he pulls a building permit, then he's perfectly free to do that.
Absolutely. All he needs is a curb cut permit from David.
The only reason for surety would be is if he was going to transfer ownership prior to completing.
Right.
Wouldn't it be a lot easier if the owners were here to talk to us about this?
Sure.
And shouldn't we ask for them to come and explain what they're trying to accomplish and why they're trying to do it, so that we can work with them to accomplish our goal and their goal?
Well, if it's that cut and dry, I think Ken could do it with a phone call.
I'm comfortable with that as well. If it is, to Charlie's point, that he can do all this just working with municipal maintenance and David, well, that's your position, right, Charlie?
That's what he's asking for. I agree with you, Richard, that it would be better if he was here explaining what he was really after, so that you could work together and resolve it and let him go on his way.
So, can we ask Ken to talk to him?
His approved plan showed a road built to a standard. That shouldn't have changed,
Right.
so.
I think it's really, really important that, that we're all crystal clear on objectives and what he's trying to do and what we think he's required to do before we sign anything like this, and we're not even close. So,
Well, as you say, one of the scenarios, it's not even necessary.
exactly.
So, if you want to have him come in, or you want to?
Give him a call and give a call to Dave Menard, maybe have a meeting with Dave and Sheridan Builders and,
Well, just so long as Dave's clear, he's got an approved set of roadway construction plans. That's what's already been approved, and
yeah, well, Dave's already seen those
Yeah.
construction plans too, and okayed them.
And you would do the periodic inspections?
Yeah, as soon as he starts, I'm available to do the inspections. I don't know that he's actually submitted
Oh, he hasn't.
anything for a 53G account or what's left in the account from the site plan review.
I have to check and see.
Yeah, check it over and see what's there. There may be enough that can be used as a part of the inspection, but I suspect my letter probably included an inspection cost as a separate item in the letter.
So, give him a call, see if he can explain it fully and see or if he wants to come in and explain it to the board, if there's any questions.
Sounds good.
Get you off the hook.
Great, thank you.
Did we miss D, George?
What's
Section 7D on the agenda?
That's what we're discussing. That's what this is about.
I'm looking at E.
I don't have any,
Uh, This one was a,
Oh, I have the earlier version.
yeah, this one says revised. Does yours say revised on the top?
That's all right, I'm sorry, I have an out-of-date one.
What was D on yours?
Bond reduction at Wareham Marketplace?
right, and that's zoning board of appeals, not,
Oh, just a typo, never mind. I got the right one now.
Okay, master plan, continued discussion.
How much more is on, We missed our meeting Thursday night, and just to explain to everyone, I explained to a couple, when I heard the building got evacuated, and I know Michael was driving here, and I wasn't convinced that it would be unevacuated by, or we could get back in by 7, and I knew Ken had gotten kicked out, and I wanted him at the meeting, so I said, boom, let's just cancel it and move on, so, I'm not really prepared to make up for that meeting now. I'd rather schedule what I'd like to do is schedule another master plan session now, if that's okay. If we could talk about people's availability. Is that all right with, that seem reasonable?
It's fine with me.
I'm sorry, I'm away for the next 2 weeks.
Starting when?
I'm starting Saturday.
Could you do something this week?
Yeah, sure.
How about, I'll throw Thursday night out, 7 o'clock.
I have a meeting at Thursday at 7.
You have a conflict? I'd like Ken there, and I know you got ZBA Wednesday, right?
That's right.
Tuesdays, I can do Tuesday at 7.
You couldn't post it,
Pardon me? Yeah, true.
post it.
Wednesday?
Wednesday, Ken's
Ken's
tied
got
up.
a conflict.
Sounds like a hot Friday night date is coming our way.
Sorry?
I said, it sounds like a hot Friday night's coming our way.
Town hall's closed.
I'm not too crazy about that.
That's good, because I was gonna tell you no.
I'm going,
Holiday weekend also.
I'm going to be packing.
Town hall's closed anyway.
So the meeting will be at Emmanuel's house.
Yeah, why not?
Make sure you stock the
Bring
fridge.
your folding board.
Leave the key underneath the stuff.
Sure.
So Emmanuel, I think it's really important that you be there, and I don't think that there's a tremendous amount of pressure to do this quickly. So I'm going to propose that we wait till Emmanuel gets back.
I think that's a good idea. I think Manuel should be there.
I do too. So you'll be back when?
The 26th. I mean, I'm arriving on the 26th, so after that.
That's a Saturday.
So we can meet you at the airport and
Yeah, we'll get a conference room at Logan, all right?
So town meeting is that Monday.
Monday night is town meeting. The 31st is a Thursday. Does that work?
It's okay with me.
Halloween.
That's Halloween. You have to come in a,
yeah,
Jesus.
wear your costumes.
What do you call this?
Halloween.
I'm going to go to Monday, the 4th of November.
We will not have a meeting on the 11th as that's a holiday.
November 11th is a holiday?
Veterans Day, yes.
Veterans.
So,
I mean, I'm okay with the 4th unless you think we're going to have to,
why don't,
an additional meeting.
are we gonna cancel the 11th or move it to another day?
Well, town hall will be closed, so we'll have to cancel the 11th.
So how about if we move the 11th to the meeting of the 11th to the 18th? Have our planning board on the 18th and the 25th, and do the master plan finish up on the 4th.
It works.
Do we need, I don't know what the, do you have any highlights on what we have coming up on the, in November?
Our agenda doesn't look that bad right now for the planning board.
How about if we say we'll move the 11th to the 18th based on workload? And if it's appropriate, we'll cancel it and catch up on all business on the 25th. But do the master plan review on the 4th. So we do a tentative schedule for the 18th based on load.
We can decide that on the 4th if we
Sure,
have to.
sure.
Everybody good on the 4th, or?
November 4th?
Yes?
Work for you?
Works for me.
Okay.
Fourth, right?
Minot Forest, Minot Ave multipath.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the board know that under a contract with JCE Engineering, they've been designing a bicycle pedestrian way on Minot from the Narrows to Depot Avenue.
From the Narrows to Depot?
Right. And if anybody's interested, I have the copies of the plans in my office, if you want to come and review them.
There's a sidewalk on right-hand side of the road, right? Minot Ave? Yeah.
Elevated bike path over the sidewalk.
Okay.
There are several alternatives as well, some that cross the road in mid-block.
Has he got something sketched out on that?
Yep, has 25% plan.
Minot Ave's kind of a hard road
Is
to
that
be
because
crossing.
it doesn't stay in the center?
It's because of topography and archaeological resources. There's an area at the frontage of the Minot School that has archaeological significance.
Don't worry about that. I'll wait
Across
for
the
it.
road further down, too. All right, have to check it out.
Can we back up to new business for a second?
Sure.
Is that okay? We've submitted an article on the landscape buffers, if you remember, for town meeting on the 28th. And I talked about you taking advantage of of an opportunity to explain the article, you know, what it is and why we're doing it, as opposed to just throwing up the wording of it. And I wanted to share with you a suggestion and get your feedback. I've shared it with Ken, and he has made some comments, but I think it's important that at town meeting, that we explain to people very clearly. I'm sorry, Charlie.
That's all right. It's okay.
I only brought two. I think it's important that we explain to people exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. So, Matt Underhill runs the projector. And I talked to him at the last town meeting, and because he was throwing stuff up by the sponsors of these articles. He said, yeah, give me whatever you want. When your article comes up, you got 5 minutes. Explain it if you want. I just pull it up. And so I'm thinking something like this would be very helpful. I want people to know what a landscape buffer is, not get it confused with a setback. Understand why we're making the change, give them a couple examples, you know, hey, look, we got industrial, commercial at 40 on one, and commercial to industrial at 20. It's an error, we're trying to fix it. My biggest fear on this is people aren't gonna understand that there's setbacks and there's landscape buffers and what the difference is.
One thing you could make that a little bit clearer on this is good, is say where the frontage is. So people know, you know, when you talk a landscape buffer and you're talking a setback from the front line, back line, sideline, or whatever.
Oh, just
So they got some orientation.
say, put the frontage on the bottom, like if the frontage is on the bottom of my diagram,
Fine.
just call it that.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
And you wouldn't show a landscape buffer in the frontage. That
They
would be,
would.
Right, because that would
They
be
would.
street facing.
Might be openings for a driveway, but there's still requirement for landscape buffer in the front.
Yeah, that's what we're just talking about on Jordan Road, right?
Yeah, basically.
Not exactly.
No, the difference.
Oh, but I hear your point. But do you think this is helpful?
Sure.
One thought I would offer too is that depending on the equipment, the two greens may be too close in hue, just,
Agreed, agreed.
You want some magenta in there, right?
I think it should be a red building.
no, the yellows, you know what I'm saying.
George, I think we could do something like this in 30 seconds.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a good idea.
And so we just talked about the Tremont nail one as well. And it took us 10 minutes to all figure out what it was. And I'd like to put together one for you to look at, to try to eliminate confusion and make it crystal clear what's going on, so people don't get the idea that, hey, we can overturn Tremont here. You know,
I wouldn't be adverse to that.
I'm up to your tricks, Charlie. So,
Good idea.
That works.
Ken has a couple comments. I'm gonna work with him, we'll tune it up. And I don't think it's that big a deal, but I think it's important. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Adjourn? Executive session.
You need an executive session again? or-
Not necessarily. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that Rich Bowen was going to be available on the 21st, at the meeting of the 21st, if you wanted to have a discussion again.
Next week.
2 weeks,
Why was I thinking that? Oh, town meeting is the
28th town meeting.
It's November. At 6 or 7?
If you can do it at 6, it'll save us a little time.
Well, I just think for scheduling, we've already got public hearings probably starting at 7.
Right.
So we should do the executive session earlier. Can everybody make, you won't be here.
I was thinking of calling in, but it'll be, at 7 o'clock here, it'll be 2 in the morning there. I can still do it if it's, I mean,
You'll still be up.
I'll be up. Sober, but. No, if Rich will be here, but what time would we have the session here? Can you do it first?
Well, that's what we're talking about, doing it at 6.
Oh, if you do it at 6, I'll definitely call in.
Anybody got a problem with 6 o'clock?
Oh, it's fine with me.
Mike, you're the furthest one away probably.
Yeah, no, I can leave a little early.
You know people?
I do.
That's good, I'll call in. I'd like to hear also.
6:30?
Yeah.
No, is it, I'm sorry.
6.
6.
6?
Yeah, some committee will love all of it.
Yeah. But my wife hears this. Ken, you've got my number, right? If you don't get a call
yeah.
by 6, you call me, okay?
I'll wake you up. Get you a cup of coffee.
Okay.
So you'll take care of that posting also?
Yes.
Do you wish to finish those minutes this evening, or?
I'd like to have time to read them, to be
I was
honest.
gonna say, there's
okay.
quite a bit there. Why don't we wait till the 21st?
All right.
Me too.
I want everybody to be comfortable with them.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing further,
A motion to adjourn?
Second.
good. I think this is a record.
Yep.
Is there a second?
It was.
Oh.
You missed it.
Motion was made by Mike Baptiste, seconded by Mike King. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Right.
Meeting adjourned 8:25.